If you've been wanting to start your business but aren't sure where to start, this is it. I'm going to help you kickstart your business in just 3 days with the Bookkeeping Biz workshops. That's right, the workshops are back, and this will be the only time I'm hosting them in 2025. I can't believe it's been a full year since we've had these workshops. So if this has been on your vision board, now is the time. We're going live August 18th through the 20th. That's right, just 3 powerful days with one mission: to help you build a bookkeeping business that works for you. Each day we'll meet live virtually for a workshop at 4 p.m. Pacific for about 90 minutes, and every single one is designed to help you take action right away. Here's what we're covering. On day 1, we'll start with what it really takes to run a virtual bookkeeping business, and spoiler, it's probably not what you've been telling yourself. After this session, you'll stop second-guessing your ability to do this and finally feel confident in calling yourself a business owner. On day 2, we're diving into the tech. I know you've probably spent hours Googling tools and comparing software, but this session will help you cut through the noise so you can start simple and grow smart. You'll walk away with a streamlined list of the exact tools you need, nothing more and nothing less. And on day 3, we'll talk about how to create a business, not another job, because you didn't leave your 9-to-5 or dream of leaving just to work more hours for less pay and no benefits. You'll get clarity on the kind of business you want to build, who you want to serve, and how to make sure it supports the life that you want. I'll also share my secrets to holding successful discovery calls without the icky sales tactics, so you can start landing clients as soon as you walk away from these workshops. You'll also get access to our Ambitious Bookkeeper Facebook community to connect with others on the same journey as you, replays for all the sessions, and a daily workbook to help you take immediate action with plenty of resources to help you get started. And it's just $37 to join us. We kick off on August 18th and registration closes August 19th, so don't wait. Head over to bkworkshops.online to grab your ticket. Let's build the business you've been dreaming about together. Hey, and welcome to the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast. I'm Serena Shoup, CPA, a mom of 3, and I've been running a virtual bookkeeping business from my home since 2017. You are in the right place if you are a bookkeeper, accountant, or an accounting student, and you believe and know in your heart that your purpose is bigger than sitting in a cubicle. If you're ready to learn some actionable tips and strategies for starting and growing your accounting business, then I hope you stick around. Welcome to the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast, Robin. How are you?
I'm fabulous, thank you. How are you, Serena?
I'm doing great. I just got back from a week-long vacation, just diving right into recording the podcast today. So thank you for coming on with me. We met, actually, you found me because you invited me onto your podcast. And I had such a great time recording with you that I figured I should have you on my podcast. And so, why don't you introduce yourself to the listener, who you are, how you help people, and then we'll dive in.
Yeah, what a splendid find too. I was ever so pleased to meet you. I think that was several months ago now when we first met.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was April, wasn't it? All right, so my name is Robin Emdon, and I'm an accountability coach and an author, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about the book today. I work with people who run their own businesses, basically, solopreneurs, people with no boss, people that, like me, have distractions everywhere and never enough hours in the day, basically. And together I work with my clients, cut through and to get them more focused, follow through on the big ideas that actually get things moving in their lives. And I have what I call the momentum formula. It's all about doing it today, profiting tomorrow because you did it today, and repeat. And if you do that day in, day out, then you're well on the road to becoming successful at achieving whatever it is you want to do. So I live here in Torquay, in South Devon, in sunny England. It is sunny today. We're having a heat wave, which is becoming quite a common event here. And I live about a mile from the sea. I'm a mile from the countryside. So I get the best of both worlds.
Oh, that sounds lovely. So how much sunshine do you guys actually get per year?
About, we had 10 minutes this morning and about 5 minutes this afternoon. So we got about another 5 minutes to go. Actually, we are in the middle of our third heat wave, they call it. I mean, I was talking to someone yesterday in Las Vegas, and our heat wave is kind of like midwinter for them.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So probably still pretty nice.
Yeah, it's not unbearable where I am today. I've got a fan on, but in England, air conditioning is still only something you find in shops. Most homes don't have it, but I think we're going to have to think about it in the not too distant future.
Yeah. Well, so I was excited to have you on the podcast because you talk a lot about getting results, right? Getting things done and avoiding procrastination. And I think it's a really, really great topic, especially, I mean, for anyone really, but a lot of us bookkeepers tend to get hung up on little details. And, there's parts of our jobs that are not that fun, but they still need to get done. So I wanted to bring you on and chat about some of the discoveries that you've made in the book that you wrote all about this. Let's start kind of from the beginning. Like, what drew you into this field of figuring all this out, or bringing, the book out? So all of that.
Sure.
Tell us how you got here.
Sure. Okay. So I was born I won't go that far back. Okay. So around the year 2000, I was running a family business of gift shops in a popular tourist destination in my part of the world. And I caught sight one day, I was watching, I don't watch soaps, but I was flicking channels on the TV, and this soap came up, and it was an Australian one, and the couple were having a bit of an argument, and she was saying, "Why don't you love me anymore?" And he was saying, "Of course I love you, Marlene." And she said, "Well, what are you going to sail around the world for without me then? Why are you going to do that? You'll be gone for a year." And he said, "It's only a year, and then I'll be back." She said, "Yeah, but you don't love me." And he said, "No, I do love you." But he said, "You got to understand, I can't see myself dying and getting to the pearly gates and going, 'Oh, geez, Gabriel, could I have just one more day in the shop?'" And he said, "I just can't see it." And I just stopped. And I was like, "I can't." I had four shops. I was like, "Yeah, I don't want another day in the shop either." It wasn't my thing. It wasn't my passion. So I completely reinvented myself and did something that I was passionate about, which was working with people. And I decided to train as a life coach. And after working with him for a while, I got a personal invite to go and train with Tony Robbins in California at a time with a view to working for him at the end of it all as one of his coaches. And anyway, that was brilliant. But at the end of it all, eventually his plans changed. He went off in a different direction, and my plans changed in that he really wanted me to move to San Diego if an offer was forthcoming. And I was like, "No, I've got young family here in England." And at that time, it just wasn't an option to work remotely. So it was doable, but he wasn't geared up for it yet. So I stayed in England, started up my business, and then, as luck would have it, a few years go by, and then I put it on hold and to focus on being a full-time single father, which I had two very young boys, and I wanted to focus on raising my family, and I didn't want to do coaching at that point. Cut to 2019, and I'm sat in a coffee shop having coffee with my older brother, and I'm bragging, "I got my degree, I've been working from home, and I finally finished my education." And he was like, "Oh, well, that's a really boring story, I don't care really." And I'm like, "Oh yeah." I wasn't listening. I said, "Mind you," I said, "trust me to take 10 years to do something I should have done in 6. And he went, "Oh yeah, I can have a go about that. Why was that then?" He said, really excited to hear that he had something to get me for. And I said, "Oh, procrastination." And I laughed and he laughed, and we changed the subject. Driving home, I thought, hang on a minute. What's wrong with this picture? You're a trained life coach. I mean, these are skills you don't forget, Serena. You just don't. And you don't forget bookkeeping skills. You may have to update yourself on some of the systems, but you don't forget the basics. I mean, I learned bookkeeping and I haven't forgotten the basics. I definitely wouldn't know what's up to date, but I haven't forgotten the basics. I understand it. And coaching is probably the same. So different profession, of course, but I'm waffling. So what happened was I was thinking to myself, well, I'm a coach, and why do coach? What am I doing procrastinating? I can't do that. That's incongruent. That doesn't fit right. So I was like, okay, well, my clients never procrastinated. I never let them. Well, how did I never leave them? And I realized that they were getting like 80% of their results were coming from like 20% of the coaching, which was, I thought, okay, what's going on there? So I thought, all right, And then I asked myself two coaching questions, which was, where else in my life does procrastination show up? And, or whatever it is. In this case, it was procrastination. And the other question is, and what does it cost me? And by the time I got home, I thought, okay, I know the answers to those questions. One, absolutely everywhere. Every aspect of my life has been affected by it. Cost me? Oh my goodness, so much. And I realized I actually got quite upset about how much it had cost me and really angry with myself for letting it happen. And I could trace it back decades, absolutely decades. And I realized I'd always thought about procrastination like I used to think about a common cold. You know, oh, I've got a cold, oh, no, it'll go away in its own time. Didn't think anything of it. You just work through them normally, unless they get turned into something worse. You just work through them. I mean, I had procrastination. I just worked through the procrastination. Never gave it much thought until then. And I thought, hang on, this is a lot more serious than a common cold in terms of the consequences it's had on my life. And so I rang my brother and I said, you know, you used to be a mental health professional. Just remind me, what's the cure for a procrastination? And I had a little mental notepad and paper. And there was silence at the other end of the phone. And then I heard a sharp intake of breath. And then he said, nope, got nothing. What, really? Well, if you don't know, and I'm not sure, I had some ideas, but I wasn't really sure. So then the gift that keeps on giving, COVID, happened. And I mean by it keeps on giving as it keeps taking things away from our lives, which was in this instance, it was the lockdowns began. And in that time, I decided, okay, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to study it. And the first thing I found, Serena, was that in one 10-year period between, in the early 2000s, over 900 research papers had been done, projects had been done into procrastination. And I thought, okay, this is probably one of the most studied fields of psychology in the world. How come I didn't know about it? And also, well, the answers must be out there. But I'm not a scientist, you see, although I understood how to read a research paper because I just finished a degree, so I kind of knew how to read them. I don't retain scientific information very well. My last exam at school was biology, and I got 9%, and that's because the teacher took pity on me because I'd spelt my name right. He actually said that to me. You spelt your name right, Emdon, so I'm giving you 9%. You know, I didn't answer any questions. He said, well, your name's 9%. Got to put something down. And that was how bad I was at it. I was awful. So I thought, well, I need to take this science. I can read it, I can follow it, and then I need to turn it into plain English, comprehensible English, English that people can understand and utilize. That's where the book started.
So you wrote a book in how long during COVID?
Okay, so one of the chapters in the book deals with confidence and overconfidence. Now, lack of confidence is a very big part. People who struggle with confidence will usually struggle with procrastination because they don't have enough self-belief that they can do something. But overconfidence is just as bad. And overconfidence is when you go, right, I think I've got enough material here to write a book now. I think I'm going to do 9 chapters. I'm going to split each chapter into 3 parts. And I'll get a sketch of that done, did some maths in my head, did some bookkeeping. And this is why I'm not a bookkeeper. I decided I could do it in 3 months to get down the basic bones of the book and then work from there. That was 5 years ago. And there's my book back there. And that came out April this year. So overconfidence. So it's 5 years, 80,000 words. And a video course and other material as well that I put with it to try and get the information out there. But yeah, 5 years. I guess 3 years of that was doing the research. As I say, I was researching other people's research. So I didn't need to read 900 papers. I just needed to find the summaries and pull the threads together and see. And there's a lot of other books out there, but there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of misnomers about procrastination too.
Through this book, you were able to find really what procrastination is about. And you say that it's not about necessarily being lazy, but something deeper. So can you talk about what really causes procrastination in a lot of people?
Sure. Let's deal with laziness. First of all, laziness is a choice. And I can't help people that are being lazy for 2 reasons. First of all, one person's laziness is another person's rest and relaxation time. And who is anybody but them to be a judge of that? Procrastinators are people that want to work, know they should work, and they're just not able to. There's something stopping them. That's not laziness. They're stuck. Someone who's lazy is actually making a conscious choice. I don't want to work today. And I don't judge that, but that's the distinction that I make in it to help you understand it better. So what I realized was that procrastination, what I soon discovered was it's an inside job. It's in your brain. It's as hardwired into your brain as hunger and the need for sleep and procreation is. In fact, that procreation is part of the clue because it comes from the same part of the brain where your survival mechanism is, the limbic system. And your survival mechanism is the strongest part of your brain. The limbic system is very much, it will overpower everything else. If you see a tiger coming at you and it wants to eat you, you're going to put your trainers on and run. And your friend might say, why are you putting your trainers on? You can't run faster than a tiger. Well, yeah, but I can run faster than you, and that's all I need to do. So to get away from the tiger. So, sorry, that's a dad joke. But the point is that your brain is designed to do basically two things, which is your survival and your procreation. And the rest of your life is just icing on the cake. You're just wired to survive and procreate. And so the other part of your brain, which is in evolutionary terms and is much younger, that we're interested in, is the prefrontal cortex at the front of your brain. And the prefrontal cortex is such an interesting area because if you're a student who are probably the biggest body of procrastinators that we can think of in the world, until you're 25, it's not fully formed. It's still developing. Whereas the limbic system is there from birth, fully formed within a very short space of time. I don't know the science exactly, but it's there because you have to survive. Everything's about survival. And that's where the procrastination comes from, because the flight, fight, or freeze, they're all driven by what I call threat modality. And when you're in threat modality, you don't feel very productive. You just feel like you need to get away from something or someone or something. So in the old days, it would be you want to get away from something that wants to eat you for its lunch. And these days, you want to get away from the news, politics, bills, figures in your books that don't add up, new tax laws, tax returns, all of that stuff that stresses you out. It's induced threat modality. And your brain can't tell the difference in a superficial way between a tiger that wants you for lunch and someone and your landlord trying to evict you. You've just got news your landlord's going to evict you. You freeze. It's like, what am I going to do? And then you go into procrastination, and eventually we all have coping mechanisms, but that's where it stems from. Now, some people have better coping mechanisms than others, so not all of us procrastinate. But the research shows that about 95% of people will own up to being procrastinators at some time. It's not a big deal. We all procrastinate sometimes. You may know someone that procrastinates about, I'll do the dishes later. What does it matter? Not really. No, it might matter to somebody else if it annoys them, but it's not going to change your life. Whereas of the 95% who own up to procrastinating sometimes, 1 in 5 of those, so about 20% of the population, own up to being chronic procrastinators. And that's life-changing. That's damaging stuff. And that's what I realized I struggled with. And so it's all about these reward modalities and threat modalities. And what I put into the book was, first, you need to understand them. So the first part of the book is all about understanding, because I believe in teaching people to fish, not giving them the fish. Because if you catch procrastination and it's like a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, you're thinking, gee, if only I hadn't procrastinated, this would have been finished by now. Well, there's an infinite supply of money because we print money, but you can't get back time. There's a finite amount of time in your life. And if you're looking back and going, gee, I wish I hadn't procrastinated, it's too late. Whereas if you are aware you're procrastinating right now, hello, you can do something about it. So if you understand, and if you understand why, then you can go to the second part of the book, which is all about strategies. And I put like a pick and mix section in there of strategies, because we're all different and no two strategies work for the same people in the same way at the same time. So I've picked and chosen the best ones I could find and that I judged to be the best and that the research showed to be the best. And then the final section is the one that I find when you're studying procrastination, when you look online and look through the search engines at it, it's often missing, which is momentum. There's plenty of ideas about how to get going, but how do you keep it up? That's why I'm a momentum formula. I call it do it today, profit tomorrow, and repeat. The repeat being the hardest thing. I've got behind me, I've got a cupboard full of planners. all sorts of weird, wonderful and wacky planners, the most incredible planners. I love them, all of them. But they're in a cupboard for a reason. And that's because they all worked for a while and then they stopped working. And I don't know why. I guess I procrastinated about them. I got bored with them. The momentum dried up. And that I realized was a problem. So in the third part, I cover two things. I cover the momentum strategies. There are things you can do to grow your own momentum. A lot of things. The book is actually mostly about self-actualization. You read the book and it will help you self-actualize. But the bit that I realized that was missing and the bit that made my coaching effective is accountability, external accountability. Because if you think about it, we can all create fantastic environments to work in when we work for ourselves. I've got a nice coffee machine, nice view from my window, live in a nice part of the world, got a nice broadband connection, fingers crossed it stays up today. You know, all of that, nice big screen. My hours are reasonably flexible around what I do. But the one thing I can't recreate is a boss. See, when I get up in the morning and I look in the mirror, it's the boss looking back. He's my boss, but he's a lunatic. And he doesn't always listen to me. You know, so sometimes I can get into real trouble with him because he lets me off. Now, some people who are very good at internal accountability, their bosses are quite strict. And whenever I meet those people, I always lean in and say, tell me more. I want to pick your brain. How are you doing that? But for someone like me, it's quite a struggle. It's quite a struggle sometimes. And so, but external accountability, I realized was like, oh, that's the one thing that I can do where I can actually add value. So that for the few people that want it, it won't be everyone that reads the book won't want it. And I hope not. I hope I've set them up so they don't need it. And even if they come on board as a client, we work to, well, is there an end game here? Because I don't want them to become dependent on me. I want them to be self-actualized. But I am a prime example of someone that's always struggled with the momentum side. I can do anything for a while. We all can. But getting up the momentum and keeping it up, that was always a challenge, always difficult.
What do you think is a big driver of that? Because I can relate to that. I'm one of those people that I'll start something new all the time. I'll be like, that seems fun. Let's do that. But keeping it going is difficult with a lot of things. But there's some things that I am, better at being consistent with. And so as you're talking about it, I'm like, okay, so how, what makes that the thing that I'm able to continue with? But I don't know if it's still, even in those situations, it's not always continuing at the same momentum. Even there will be times where I completely drop something, but then I pick it back up again. And then things will fizzle out, but then I just continue to I have a whole, a mantra of just beginning again. That's just the constant, let's just begin again.
Yes. Been there, got the t-shirt. Yep. I know it very well. Know it very well. Practice that daily. In fact, beginning again. Where was I this morning? Oh, I can't remember. I'll start again. Okay. So yeah, good question. And I'm going to answer it really by telling you, I'm going to give you what I call the crown jewels. I can't give you the literal crown jewels. The king still needs them in our country, and you're getting a king over in America. So maybe they'll want to make their own soon. But what I can give you is the crown jewels of my book, which is the inner productivity team. And if I share that with you, I'm kind of explaining to you the answer to your question. Well, first of all, I need to put down what I would call an overarching question. If you're not passionate about what you're doing, that's when procrastination gets in. And we can't be passionate about everything that we're doing. We can't. Right. Sometimes things just have to get done. So another thing that kicks in then, and we talk about this in the book, is urgency. But urgency as a driver really sucks. If you think about a student who's got 3 months to do a thesis or an essay. I mean, I was a student not very long ago, so I relate to this. Oh, right, okay, so you start off with a plan. And you go, all right, week 1, I'm going to do this. Week 2, I'm going to do that. Week 3, I'm going to do that. Week 4, I'm going to do that. I've got 12 weeks. Week 11 and a half, how much have I done? None of it. Panic, right? And then it's you try and get it done, but you don't really have the time to do it justice. And you wish to goodness you could start again. And you know, if you did start again, you'd still leave it another 11 and a half weeks, right? And that's because urgency, if urgency is missing, then people are not very good judge of time. If it's something that's got to be done today or tomorrow by the end of the week, we can get our heads around that. But if it's further out than that, that's when accountability coaching really comes in, because we help you fix with chunk down goals, smaller targets that we to against, so that the big target, which is a long way away and has consequences if you don't hit it, you can set up some consequences along the way. But I digress. In the meantime, how do you get more productive in a productivity team, the crown jewels? So let's go back inside your brain. When you are being productive, there are 3 neurotransmitters present. Now, I don't know about you, but my eyes are already glazing over at the word neurotransmitter. I'm not a scientist, right? So, but I had to study this, at least at a superficial level, and it is very superficial. I don't claim to be an expert on neuroscience or psychology. But here's what I found. You need to be fully in your groove, as I call it, like the Madonna song, Let's Get Into the Groove. I call it getting into the groove. And to get the needle into the groove, you need dopamine. Most people have heard of dopamine. It's the fun neurotransmitter. It's there when you go on a roller coaster, woohoo! When you're scrolling through your phone, it's like you're getting a dopamine hit from that. When you're watching your favorite TV show, when you're reading your favorite book, when you're doing things you're enjoying, it's all about the dopamine, and that's why you will keep doing them. And if you're not enjoying it in your work, then it's a problem, okay? Because that's when the passion disappears. And so I don't use the word dopamine, although it is memorable, but of the 3, it's the most memorable. I call it the conductor, because the conductor who resides in the prefrontal cortex is the conductor of an orchestra of musical instruments. And without the conductor, there's just a cacophony of terrible sound. Nothing works. You can't bring all the disparate parts together. The conductor orchestrates everything, brings it together, makes it beautiful, and you make music with what you're doing, right? And the conductor is only in the building if the limbic system is calm and not feeling threatened, right? Okay, because the conductor is not as strong as the limbic system, because in the limbic system, we have a little thing a big thing that I call your warrior. Now, your warrior comes out when you get another neurotransmitter called cortisol. And that is when that comes out, it floods your body, it shuts everything down except that flight, fight, or freeze response. And it's wonderful. It saves your life over and over again. Except you don't really need it very often these days, unless you are genuinely running away from a tiger, right? But it's still there, and it still serves a purpose. And there will be times in everybody's lives when they need it. It's still highly relevant. But you don't need it when you're being productive, because it locks the conductor out. Your rational thinking side, the thing that says, I know what I got to get done today. Not if the warrior's there. The warrior's there. Yeah, let's go fight, right? That's all they want to do, right? Because that's their job. But what you do need is what I call the fun-sized warrior. Little baby warrior, fun size, like the chocolate bars in your lunchbox. And that's because the fun size warrior produces noradrenaline as in adrenaline, noradrenaline it's called. And you just need a little bit of anxiety, a little tiny bit of stress, a fun-sized amount, so that you're metaphorically and maybe literally sitting on the edge of your seat. Oh, I'm excited about this. I got to get this done. If I don't get this done, I'm going to get into trouble with my coach. Or if I don't get this done, I won't be able to X, Y, Z at the end of the day. And I want to really do that, right? Just a little bit. But it's very important that you have that edge. Just gives you that edge. And the final of the 3 of the inner productivity team is called acetylcholine. You hear me there. I murmur a lot, but I always it's not a long word and I never remember it. It's scientific. But acetylcholine is an interesting one. If you think about it, I don't know about you, but were you ever a child? I think I remember. You probably remember it sooner than I do, but quicker. Not as far back as I do. But I remember being a child. But if you've got children of your own, you notice that they're really, really good at focusing. Sure, if they've got gas, their focus will shift really fast. I've got gas. I need to sort this out, and they may not be able to verbalize that, but my goodness, you know what's going on if you're a mum or a dad. Well, but the other side of it is, my kids, when they were little, I would put a video on of their favorite movie, and they could watch it 100 times and not get bored, right? Or I could give them one toy, or I could give them the box that the toy came in on Christmas Day, and they'll play with the box, not the toy that costs hundreds. They'll play with the box, tens. They'll play with the box for hours on end, totally focused. And that's because acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter that creates focus, and children need it in bucket loads, because they have to learn to talk, they have to learn to walk, they have to learn all the skill sets they need to survive. They're in a terrible hurry to do it because it's essential, because they're highly vulnerable, and it still takes years. But there's no other point in your life when you learn so much so quickly as when you're a child. And that's the acetylcholine, which, damn it, when you're an adult, is not naturally present in our brains. It's gone.
Interesting.
Right? Now, fortunately, our brains are very sophisticated, and you can bring it back. You can manufacture it, and you don't need a little...
Without caffeine?
Without caffeine, absolutely. Although I'm a fan of caffeine, but you can bring it back. Yes, caffeine does, it's a neurotransmitter, so it latches onto them. So yeah, absolutely. But you can bring it back. And I don't know how it works biologically. I don't care how it works biologically. All I know is, I know when acetylcholine is in the building, because when I look at my watch and I've been working and I think, oh gosh, I've got so much to do today. I've only done 5 minutes work, and I look at my watch. I've been here 2 hours. Wow, that time flew. That's because I was focused. And when you're focused, you are in the groove. And when you are focused and the conductor is present directing your work, you're in the groove. And when you are focused and you're feeling a little bit, I've got to get this done, a little bit stressed, not too much, not too little. James Clear calls it the Goldilocks principle. Not too much, not too little, just enough. When you're there, when all three of those things are present, you will be productive. And it's a skill. You have to learn the skill, you need to find the strategies that will get you into the groove. That's what my book is all about.
Well, I know one of my strategies is definitely a couple cups of coffee. Always helps me focus. I did try to quit caffeine for a while, and it's just, I had a really hard time focusing.
Okay. Enough. I mean, I'm not going to have a go, because I love my coffee. I'm a coffee snob, and that's how I start my day. I shouldn't. They tell me it's bad for me, but everything's bad for you. Breathing air is bad for you. So I have a coffee too. I love it. And it does. You see, that's the other thing, is that's why I would say, when you look at your needs, I have a section in my book on the 6 human needs, which I learned from Tony, who in turn learned from Abraham Maslow, going right back. And I talk about how that dopamine fix, you can get all your needs met positively. So you can get it by good, clean living, healthy eating, or you can get it negatively by pizzas and coffee. Although don't eat too many pizzas, because that will eventually affect your health, and then you'll feel rubbish, and then you will struggle with your productivity. But yeah, I'm with you on the coffee.
So one of the things that you mentioned was that you've got to have passion and have fun with things, but there's still things that we have to get, like our whole, job isn't always sunshine and rainbows. So I know for like this industry, bookkeeping, we have a lot of repetitive tasks and deadlines, which, as you were talking about that, like little bit of anxiety, we don't have bosses, but we have clients and we have deadlines that we've committed to. So that's always been a big driver for me of getting things done, but I will still procrastinate till almost the last possible moment. Because unfortunately, when I did that in school, I always had really good results. So I was not motivated to change my strategy. But there have been, as the businesses have grown, and this is what I talk to my students about as well, and my listeners, is when it's not just you anymore and you've got a team, you have to stagger deadlines, and you can no longer wait till the last possible moment because you're affecting other people's jobs and things like that. So what is your advice for anyone listening that is like, yeah, I'm still really struggling with doing the repetitive, mundane tasks that I don't really enjoy? Or maybe it's not the repetitive, mundane tasks. Maybe it's like the marketing tasks that they don't enjoy. What do you have?
You got to admit it. You're a bookkeeper. Mm-hmm. You love repetitive tasks. I know bookkeepers.
Yeah, exactly. So what are some of your like give us one strategy that might work for somebody when they're dealing with.
Okay, sure. All right. I'll try and be succinct is what you're saying. You're waffling on too much. Right. I get you. I hear you. I hear the underlying question. That's fine. I'm not offended. So yeah, well, I actually will mention a couple of things in answer. You said a lot of things there. We don't tend to procrastinate when we've got responsibility to our clients because we're accountable to them. If we let them down, we've let them down, and that has serious consequences. That's a pain driver. Okay. And I've mentioned it deliberately because the other side of the coin is, well, what's a reward driver? What's a pleasure driver? So if you've got like chores that you've just got to do them and you don't want to do the last minuting thing because then you're worried that you're not allowed to make mistakes when you're a bookkeeper. It's not an option. Okay, so you've got to do the job well. And then if you've left it to the last minute, that's a real fear. That's a real worry. And your business and your reputation would struggle, I know. So you don't do that. But nevertheless, you will still leave things perhaps longer than you wanted to. So what I do is when I'm working with my clients and what I do for myself is I tie the boring tasks into rewards or sometimes into pain. So it depends on the mindset of the person and how what motivates them is the word we're looking for enough. So taking something off somebody, off yourself, I won't get this if I don't do that, or I will get this if I do that. Some people work one way, some people work the other. I'll be honest with you, most people tend to gravitate towards the pain side because we live in a world where painful things tends to be a bigger driver of getting us to get off our backsides and do things. But equally, the reward thing's fun. So I know, for example, when I talk to someone who's a natural internal accountability person, who's like, I was talking to one the other day, what have you been doing? Oh, I've written a book on procrastination and productivity, helping people get over procrastination. And she said, do people do that? Really? And she was a very successful businesswoman. And I was picking her brain, and I knew some of what she was going to say, but I'm always interested to hear what the mechanisms are. And she said, I just tell myself, until you get this done, you can't play, right? Whatever the playing is, whether it's spending time with our kids or going out for a drink with our partner or whatever it is, I don't get to do the fun stuff until I've done this. Or the other side of it is, and that's a very powerful, and she's very disciplined about that. But someone like me is like, damn it, I'm going to go and play with the kids. I reward myself now. All right. And so you have to get disciplined about it because that is not a good strategy. It's fun to play with the kids, but then the things get left, right? So, yeah, you got to. So what we talk about when I'm working with clients, and I do it for myself as well, is like, when I do this, I get that, right? And so for me, like a big thing for me, like is I like, time off at the weekend. If I don't do this today, well, I know it's a matter of fact that I'm not going to have much time off at the weekend. And that's very, very motivational for me because I am committed to getting the work done. But I realize if I procrastinate and waste time or something else wastes my time, I've had a lot of night time wasted today by urgent action that wasn't of my doing. I'm like, I can see my reward slipping away. And I'm like, no, I'm going to double down and I'm going to get there somehow. All right. So, yeah, sometimes if the chore is a drag and it's a chore and you don't want to get it done, you actually have two options. The one is what I've said, set yourself up for reward or more pain if you don't get it done. And the other one is, can you leverage it out? Can you delegate it to somebody else? That's a common one. That's not always an option,
right?
But often it is.
There was something you said a moment ago, and it popped a question into my head, and now it's left me. But maybe it'll come back to me.
Yes, it's Emdon fried brain. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
It's contagious.
Like I just came off of a week vacation. Oh, that might be actually it. Like, I know there's like a lot of stuff, words floating around, people saying things like balancing, living for today. And then like the whole adage of like, the work will be here tomorrow. That's like the most unhelpful thing to say to a procrastinator. So what do you say to that?
I ask, you say what you're alluding to there is 2019. Oh, I procrastinated. I've been doing that since I was a teenager and never owning up to it. And one of the hardest battles I have with myself and now with when I meet other people is I get someone like my friend the other day. Oh, people procrastinate. They do that. That's fine. And they're a very successful business person. But you get other people like, I don't think I suffer from procrastination. I don't think it is that. And when I was writing the book, I was like, some people, I keep talking about procrastinators, but not everybody owns it. And so I would say it's kind of like, the 12-step program. I don't drink, so I don't know much about it and wouldn't claim to know much about it. But I believe the first thing is you have to own it. You have to say, I've got a problem. And I wouldn't advocate a 12-step program for procrastinators. I don't think it's that serious or anything like that of a challenge. But it is life-changing in the same way, for sure. And you have to own it. You have to own up to it. So it is there. I think I'm right in saying that's the first step is, yes, I'm an alcoholic. Okay, fine. I'll leave that there because I don't want to talk about something I know nothing about. But yes, I'm a procrastinator is a really big step. And you don't have to own it, because I actually do think, and I mentioned this in the book, it never goes away. I am a procrastinator. I can procrastinate my life away every day. I still have to deal with it every single day. I still catch myself procrastinating. I've got better since writing the book at dealing with it, but I'm aware I'm still susceptible to it, and I do find myself caught in it sometimes. And I have better mechanisms for dealing with that. I have a more flexible diary. I schedule around it a little bit for the times that I slip. But the first step is recognizing it's there in the first place.
The other thing too is that like I said before, a lot of us haven't necessarily suffered as negative of consequences for being a procrastinator. Like I'm the type of person that like I have a deadline. I know that I'm going to hit it because if I have to pull an all-nighter before it, I will. But like you were saying before, it might not be to the quality that you wanted. And then the negative ramifications of that is like then the rest of the week you're trying to catch up on sleep. And so it's affecting everything, it trickles down. So just really recognizing those actual consequences that you might not have been recognizing before. So like admit that you are procrastinating, even though you're still successful. And then looking at what were actually the negative consequences of that procrastination. It's very interesting because procrastinators are still productive people. Yeah. It's not like you're not productive. It's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's going right back to the beginning. They're not lazy. They want to be productive.
And they're capable of it.
They're capable of it. The distinction I would make then, I guess what I would suggest to you is this, right? So there's a lot, talking of one of the research again, there was a paper written in 2007 on the effects of goal setting. You'll be surprised how little work's been done into goal setting until around that period. And I was very surprised actually, and the value of it. And I'm not a great advocate of goal setting. When I work with the clients, we talk about chunking things down and milestone goals, but I don't actually believe in setting the be all and end all of goal setting, because they discovered when they did the research, they discovered that the act of setting up a goal, the SMART goals, specific, measurable, and all of that stuff, actually, it sets up in your mind an obligation. And obligations are stressful. And who comes out when you're too stressed? Your big warrior. And so you procrastinate. So you don't want it. So you actually, ironically, your big goals, your big things that you want to get done don't happen because you actually goal set that you wanted them to. You created an obligation. So I talk in my book about creating a personal life vision. So and I talk about the distinction being that it might be achieved by many goals, many goals being achieved. So I said it like 15 years into the future, because that's so far away for most of us. It's like, okay, I can't restrict myself into thinking, oh, I won't be able to get that done. You can do a lot in 15 years. Most people underestimate what they can do. Most people overestimate what they can get done in a year and underestimate what they can do in 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So for 15 years is great. So, but the distinction being is that when you have a clear vision and you get up in the morning and your vision is how you see yourself being 5, 10, 15 years from now, and the thing you got to do today is completely related to that and yet unrelatable. It's such a tiny little thing you got to get done, and yet you won't achieve that big goal. It's a lot more motivating. So I was explaining about in 2007, they did some research into goal setting, and they discovered that they took their sample group and they said, right, some of you are going to be set the task, you've got 1 month to achieve whatever goals you set yourself. And that group achieved 43% of their goals. And then the top tier group, they added various things, including in the last 2 levels, higher and higher levels of external accountability. And when they got to the top level, what they found was the group in group 5 who had full accountability, they were getting emails, they had to report back, they had to send reports, they had progress reports, and they were accountable, and they had to explain to their external coach what they were doing and how they and what they were achieving. They achieved 33% more productivity than the baseline group, who, without any help at all, after 1 month, which isn't a long time, we can all do things for a month, 43% of those said they'd either achieved their goals or well on their way to making them. The higher group was 33% more. And I asked the question, Serena, what could you achieve? What would it mean to you if you could achieve 33% more every single month of the year that you're working professionally? What would that mean to your bottom line? How much more profit would that make? How much more turnover would that create? And by the way, I don't believe any of that matters. But what matters is what you spend it on. What does that do for your lifestyle? If you've got 33% more income, more profit, how much more fabulous could your vacations be? How many more vacations could you have?
How much sooner can you retire?
Yes, how much sooner can you retire, right? When you start, there's an infinite supply of money in the world, but we don't need money. We need lifestyle choices. We need lifestyle freedom. And when you're turning over more and your business works and you're profiting more, you can get there quicker. And if you think about it, if you achieve 33% more than you're doing now, every single month of the year, that's an exponential growth. The figure is phenomenal. You're a mathematician. You'll understand that 33% times 12 exponentially is thousands of percent. I'm not suggesting to anybody that they would achieve that. But what if it just was 33%? What if it was 20% more? What if it was 10% more? You understand better than most people because of your maths that even 1% more is better than nothing, because compound interest, the exponential growth. And so that's the difference. That's where I'm coming from with that.
That's powerful. So what you're saying is everyone needs an accountability coach.
No.
Everyone needs some sort of accountability, though. Just as you were talking about it, I was, like if you have a team and you're just letting them kind of do, which I'm guilty of this because I have very self-motivated team, but we still have a weekly team meeting as accountability check-in of like, okay, give us status updates.
Absolutely. Well, it would be very self-serving of me to say that. So of course I'm not going to say that because I'm not about self-serving. But what I will say is that, yeah, everybody needs levels of accountability. Now you can have accountability buddies. You can, in your case, your team have a boss. So they're doing okay. They probably don't have to worry about procrastination as much as the boss does because the boss doesn't have a boss. But you are accountable to them. You've made commitments to them as well as they've made commitments to you. But you can simulate accountability with commitments made, commitments given. That's a very good one. I mean, I remember years ago, who was the planner? It slipped from my mind now. But there's a planner where that's what you record every day: commitments made, commitments given. That was a very good accountability system. And the guy who wrote the 7 Habits of Effective People, Stephen Covey, and his planner was all about that. In my cupboard with all the other planners. Great, love it, love the theory, but it didn't last forever. But you can have accountability buddies, people where you just swap accountability. There's a time cost because you're having to be their buddy as well as them being your buddy. So there's a time cost. And they may or may not be good at what they do. They might suck at it. They might say, Serena, so you didn't hit your target this week. Well, you're really some swear word at that, aren't you? And you're like, oh, great, I feel terrific now. That's not inspiring. That's not motivational. A good coach, if you pick the right coach, and it has to be the right coach for you and your personality, you have to like each other. They won't do that because they're trained. They're trained not to do you down. They're trying to lift you up. Whereas accountability buddies is a little bit of a crapshoot. You're not sure what you're going to get, but it works. I've had many over the years, and actually all of them in the end fell apart. Ended up in my metaphorical cupboard behind me for one reason or another. So I'm not going to say everybody needs it. A lot of people, they just need the skills, the strategies, and it's enough to get them moving. Other people, yeah. I mean, I would say the way I talk about it in Britain, we talk about it's a belt and braces approach. You wear a belt and you wear braces to hold, you call them pants, I think. We call them trousers, to hold your trousers up, right? So you can hold your own trousers up. But a belt, but if you use a belt, that's fine. And if you use braces, you brought in an accountability coach to make doubly sure that they are going to stay up. And that's all I'm saying really is, yeah, if you reach the point where you just absolutely positively must achieve your targets, you must hit your goals, you want to, you need to, then yeah, you should think about getting accountability into your life, but in some form. So I wouldn't say everybody needs it. I'd say, but everybody could benefit from it.
Absolutely. Okay, I have a couple more questions for you. So what is something that you've done recently, a result that you've gotten recently by following your own methodology?
Oh gosh, I've built this business in finishing the book, really. I mean, how many times have I said to people over the years, what are you doing, Robin? He says, oh, I'm writing a book about procrastination. And they say, oh yeah, I thought about doing that, but then I didn't, I'm still thinking about it. I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, not heard that one before. I finished it. And I have a marketing strategy. I've completed my system. I think my biggest achievement really is one of self-personal growth, in that I still think of myself as a chronic procrastinator. I can still catch myself doing it. But I do know how to deal with it now, and it doesn't dominate my life anymore. But it's there. And so in business terms, I keep doing it. And I might upset your listeners now. I don't do it on purpose, but it is something in my book, which is a saying that keep myself going. And actually, it perhaps epitomizes is the best answer I can give you to the question, which is about keeping going. During World War II, Winston Churchill, who's famous for a lot of things, Pearl Harbor had just happened, which obviously historically brought the Americans into the war. But in the Pacific, they had also caused massive damage out in the Pacific to British warships. There was a huge loss of life. It was devastating, as was Pearl Harbor. On the plus side, Churchill was thinking, okay, now the Americans have come into the war. On the downside, it's like, I hope it's not too late. And we've just suffered huge losses as well. And it was a really dark days for both countries and the Allies. And Churchill just said, right, never mind, KBO, he said. And for the rest of the war, people who had heard him say whenever there was bad news or whenever things were getting too much, too overwhelming, KBO, and they were like, okay. Well, the equivalent of that today are the signs that say, keep calm and carry on. I mean, you may have seen those. They didn't exist in the war. They're complete mythology. But KBO did. And perhaps the reason it now says keep calm and carry on is because KBO is a little bit rude. It's I hope you don't mind. I hope you can say it. Keep buggering on. Whereas Churchill said, keep buggering on. Right? Because, and actually there's value in that, it being a very slightly a sweary word, just a little bit, not a bad one really, because it's emotional. Keep calm and carry on just feels limp, like a lettuce leaf.
Yeah.
But keep buggering on. I won't say it again, but I had just that last time. I just like, when I get stuck, I just like, oh, that's bad news. My big warriors come out. KBO. It
has a sense of grit involved.
And it becomes an anchor. An anchor in the sense of when it engages me with a feeling of, right, let's get on with it. That kind of anchor, not an anchor that drags you down. That's a different kind of anchor.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. My next and last question, well, my next to last question, because I do have one more question after this. So this podcast is for bookkeepers and accountants. And when I have other business owners on that are not bookkeepers or accountants, I like to ask them, what is something, if you have a bookkeeper or if you don't and you wish you did, what would be something that a bookkeeper could do that would help move the needle or make a difference in how you run your business?
Well, that comes back to a point I'm making earlier about leveraging out or delegating out things that you don't need to do. The value of a bookkeeper is, I know how to do books. I know how to read accounts, but I don't dig it. I don't want to. It doesn't float my boat. I'm not passionate about it. And I know a few bookkeepers and they really love numbers. You guys, you love numbers. And I mean, I'm a guy, I'll quote fantastic numbers, but adding up columns and all of that stuff doesn't do it for me. And I actually getting quite stressed just thinking about when I had my gift shops, and I used to do, in the UK, purchase tax is called VAT, and the portion of the VAT returns, that was probably the biggest thing I procrastinated about ever. I hated doing those. So leveraging it out, delegating it out, the beauty of a bookkeeper, they are an essential part of your business. You cannot do business unless you keep proper accounts, because whether you like it or not, the taxman will put you out of business if you haven't reported your business properly. And the other side of it is, of course, they tell you what's working and what's not working. And I don't believe in letting the accountant run my business, but reporting my business. I would rather that they did that than I did. At the moment, I don't have one. Maybe we can talk afterwards. But I know that when I get to a certain size of the business, it's something I will do. I always call it leveraging out rather than delegating. The distinction I make is when you leverage something out, you don't give up responsibility for it. So just in case they let you down, you keep tabs on it. Accountability again.
Yeah, I love that. And that's always helpful to hear a business owner and how their perspective of it, because a lot of my listeners do feel like, how do we communicate our value to these people that, seem like they don't care? And there are going to be clients out there that don't care that much, and they're not the right client for hiring a bookkeeper, obviously. But I like to ask this question because I want people to know that people do value bookkeeping.
I value bookkeepers too. I can't think of any bookkeeper I've ever met that I didn't like. You're nice people. I'm not making that up. I genuinely, I did an accountant's course when I was at college in my teens. Everyone was lovely. And that's why I know how much you love numbers. But yeah, nice people.
All right. Final question. Where can our listener go to connect with you and grab a copy of your book called GetResultsology? I don't know if we mentioned the title of it. So if you're listening, it will also be linked in the show notes.
Okay. So the book is called GetResultsology, The Science of Getting It Done. The Science of Getting Stuff Done, I should say. And so it is a serious book. It's written in plain English. It communicates the message. It's something you can dive into, and I highly recommend that you read it. And I want you, if you go on Amazon, you can buy it as a print or you can buy it as a Kindle. But I don't want to make you do that. I don't expect you to part with your money. I'm happy to give it to you free in its entirety as a PDF. No strings attached. You can download it from a link I'm about to give you. I want to get this technology out there. And so you can go to my website. I've got a special link for it. My main website is called, believe it or not, GetResultsology.com. You can find it there. But another way to find it that's really quick is reallyusefultips.com. Now, really useful tips as in, I really mean it. You can have it for nothing. It's useful, as I hope you do find it useful, and it's full of tips. Reallyusefultips.com. And all I ask is that when you get it, open it up, start reading it, and in the first chapter, you'll find at the end of the chapter, I ask you to sign a pledge to say that you're going to follow through. And I'm an accountability coach after all, so I'm saying, come on, follow through, do it. And then email me your pledge, and I'm not being funny about it. I'm only just saying, really, it's my way of saying, feel free to get in touch, drop me a line. I read all the emails I get and I reply, and it'd be lovely to hear from you. And you can just, if you want to do that, do it. It's not compulsory, but yeah, so there's that. And as an extra bonus as well, if you don't want the book because you're busy doing your books, because I know it's a very big and time consuming job, I have an alternative, which is called my 5-day challenge. And you can get that from skyrocketyourproductivitychallenge.com. That's also free. 5 videos, 10 minutes a day, free. And it's based on the book.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all those wonderful resources. So make sure you all go get your copy of the book. I have mine. I'm working through it. I wish you had an Audible version.
There is an Audible version. Oh, it's not, but it's not, there's an audio version.
Okay. There's an audio version.
Yes.
All right.
That is actually available when you get the free one. That is something you could purchase. I have that, but it's optional. You can get the book for free.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Robin, for joining me on my podcast. It's always a pleasure to chat with you.
And with you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a delight. And as you can tell, I am English because I can talk for England.
Wonderful. All right. You have a wonderful, hopefully the rest of your day is sunshiny.
Yes, what's left of it. It's evening now, but it is still very sunshiny. But thank you very much. You have a great day too.
Awesome. Bye. Thank you to everyone who helps make this podcast possible. Content and interviews are produced by me, Serena Shu. Our intro and outro music is written and performed by my brother, Ian Gilliam. Editing is also by Ian using his awesome sound engineering skills along with Descript software. Hosting and publishing is by Buzzsprout, and you can check out the show notes for links to all of these amazing resources and resources mentioned in the episode.
Be ambitious.
Hey, bookkeeper friend, ever wish you could binge only the podcast episodes you need right now? Whether you're diving into advisory work, looking for quick Q&A wins, or craving a little student spotlight inspiration, I've got you. We've curated themed Spotify playlists for the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast, so you can skip the scroll and get straight to what matters. Tap into strategy sessions, leadership gems, and more at ambitiousbookkeeper.com/Spotify. Pop in your earbuds and hit play on your next big move.